My brother stood up during Sunday dinner, raised his glass, and announced I was giving him a kidney before he had ever once asked whether I was willing. To Nora, the best sister in the world, she's going to save my life. Everyone at the table started crying. My mother grabbed my hand. My father stood to hug me. My brother's wife whispered, "Thank you." I sat there, surrounded by 6 people celebrating a decision I had never actually made. My name is Nora Ellis. I was 34, single, and apparently the only person in my family who understood that gratitude is not the same thing as consent. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from tonight. I love seeing how far these stories reach around the world. My brother Daniel had kidney disease for 3 years. When his condition worsened and he started dialysis, I drove him to appointments, cooked for his family, helped his kids with homework. I loved him. I wanted him to live. But wanting someone to live is not the same as agreeing to give up an organ. 2 weeks before that dinner, my mother had casually asked my blood type, claiming it was for emergency information. A week later, Daniel's wife Paige mentioned that siblings often make the best donor matches. I agreed as a fact, not a promise. By the time Daniel raised his glass, my family had already contacted his transplant coordinator, told relatives I was in the testing process, and let his kids believe Aunt Nora was going to fix their father. Stay with me, because the phone call I got the next morning is the moment I realized exactly how far my family had gone behind my back, and it changed everything about how I handled what came next. "I haven't agreed to donate," I said at the table. The room went silent. Daniel's face shifted from confusion to hurt. "But you said you'd get tested." "I never said that." My mother whispered, "Nora, not now," meaning not in front of the kids, not while Daniel was sick, not while my refusal might make everyone feel the pressure they'd quietly built for weeks. I went home before dessert. The next morning, a transplant coordinator named Melissa called, saying my family had indicated I was interested in evaluation. She immediately clarified the process was voluntary and confidential. When I told her what had actually happened, her tone sharpened. "No one should be announcing your donation. You have not consented to anything, and even if you do, you can withdraw at any time." Then she said something I've never forgot. "A donor's yes must be free enough that no one is punished for saying no." By that measure, my family had already made a real yes impossible. Daniel didn't speak to me for 6 days. Then Paige posted online, praying for a miracle donor who chooses love over fear. She didn't name me. She didn't need to. Relatives started calling. An aunt said she'd donate if she were younger. A cousin said family is supposed to sacrifice. I stopped answering. I'll be honest with you, before that dinner, I might have actually gone through with testing. I was scared, but I loved my brother enough to find out if I was a match. After the dinner, I no longer knew if any yes from me could ever be genuinely mine again. That's what public pressure does. It doesn't just push you toward an answer, it steals your ability to trust your own reasons for giving it. I met with an independent donor advocate who explained I could complete blood testing without committing to anything and could withdraw privately at any point. The hospital would simply tell my family I wasn't eligible without revealing why. I agreed to testing. I was a preliminary match. I sat in my car afterward and cried because part of me had hoped biology would just decide this for me instead. During the financial interview, I learned Daniel's insurance wouldn't cover my lost wages during a 6-week recovery. When I asked if he and Paige could help cover my rent, Daniel looked genuinely surprised. "We're barely managing as it is," he said. "I know," I told him. "That's why I'm asking." His answer, "We'll figure it out," was the same phrase that had defined my role in our family my whole life. Nora solves the details after everyone else makes the emotional decision. During my psychological evaluation, the psychologist asked, "Would you feel able to say no today?" I started to answer yes. Then I stopped. That hesitation was my real answer. The transplant committee paused my evaluation entirely, citing family pressure, and recommended time away from direct requests. Daniel accused me of telling the hospital our family was abusive. Paige said I jeopardized his spot on the transplant list. The final moment came when I visited my father alone, and Daniel's 9-year-old daughter ran up to me and said, "Daddy says the doctors won't let you help because you're scared." I looked at Daniel. He didn't correct her. That was when I withdrew for good, not because Daniel was a bad person, not to punish him, but because he was willing to use his own child's fear to pressure me after being explicitly told the whole process had to stay voluntary. I knelt down and told my niece gently, "This is an adult medical decision, and none of it is your job to worry about." Then I told my brother privately I was done. He called me selfish. My mother said she didn't recognize me. Paige told me if Daniel died, I'd have to live with it. I told her, "If you keep speaking to me this way, you'll have to live without me, even if he survives." Now here's a question I genuinely want your honest opinion on in the comments. Do you think a sibling should ever feel obligated to donate an organ just because they're the healthy, single one in the family? Where's the line between love and pressure, in your opinion? 6 months later, Daniel's transplant team arranged a paired kidney exchange. Paige donated to a stranger in another state, and in return, a teacher none of us had ever met donated to Daniel. The surgery succeeded. I cried in my office bathroom when I heard, not from regret, but relief. Weeks later, Paige called, her voice still weak from her own recovery. "I'm sorry," she said. "I thought because you were healthy and single it would be easier for you." Single, healthy, responsible. In my family, those words had always meant I needed less protection, not more. Daniel wrote to me months after that. "I wanted your kidney more than I respected your right to keep it," he admitted. That sentence opened a door. We met in a park and talked for 2 hours. Love, I told him, had never been the real issue between us. Respect was. We're rebuilding, slowly. My mother took longer to understand. She still believes family should be willing to do anything for one another. I told her willingness only means something when refusal stays genuinely possible. I still love my brother. I'm grateful he got a kidney. None of that means I should have given him mine under pressure disguised as celebration. A gift taken through guilt was never really a gift. And your body doesn't become family property just because someone you love is in danger. If this story made you think, subscribe to Unheard Drama Stories and tell me in the comments where you're watching from, plus your honest take on where family love ends and pressure begins.